Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. This episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by AlexRossArt.com. Alex has a brand new graphic novel coming out from Marvel and Abrams Books, Fantastic Four: Full Circle. It comes out September 6th. It's a rainy night in Manhattan, and not a creature is stirring except for the Thing, Ben Grimm. When an intruder suddenly appears inside the Baxter Building, the Fantastic Four find themselves surrounded by a swarm of invading parasites. These carrion creatures, composed of negative energy, come to Earth using a human host as a delivery system. But for what purpose? And who is behind this untimely invasion? The Fantastic Four have no choice but to journey to the Negative Zone, an alien universe comprised entirely of antimatter, risking not just their own lives, but the fate of the cosmos. Fantastic Four: Full Circle is the first long-form work written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Alex Ross, who revisits a classic Lee Kirby story from the 60s and introduces the storyline for a new generation of readers. Bold, vivid colors, his trademark visual storytelling, Ross takes Marvel's first team of superheroes to places only he can illustrate. The book also features a special poster jacket with the front flap unfolding to reveal an all-new, fully painted origin story of the Fantastic Four. Again, Fantastic Four: Full Circle, out September 6th. For more details, go to AlexRossArt.com. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show, and our special edition of Seen Missing, which is becoming a monthly thing that we do where we look at some great old movies. John Suntress here, Gabe Hardman here, Ian Brill here. Good to see everybody. And we're really excited.
Those opening graphics were great, and now I feel so inadequate because I don't know if what I bring to the conversation will be as good as how that looked.
Ian, those were some important fucking graphics right there. I mean, like the swirling smoke. Oh my god! I don't know. Now we're all intimidated. I don't know.
Well, but wait, there's more. We are going to be talking about Yojimbo and Fistfull of Dollars, and we're even going to probably look at, or at least mention, some other films that were inspired by Yojimbo. A very interesting relationship between these films. Hey, it's a tribute. How you doing, everybody? Sergio Leone. And it's like, maybe it's a ripoff. And I love the quote that I saw that Kurosawa said, I think you owe me some money, man.
Yeah, they sued him. I mean, Toho sued him. But
that is the great thing, often when we're talking about films, so people know Akira Kurosawa made this great film in 1961 called Yojimbo. 1964, I believe, is Fistful of Dollars, which is a remake, but an unauthorized remake, and Kurosawa had to sue. And my favorite part of that is, when we discuss films, we say like, they owe such a great debt to Orson Welles, or they owe such a great debt to Hitchcock. Leone literally owed a great debt to Kurosawa, like actually. And like Kurosawa got he has 15, they're all dead now, but 15% of the profits from there. That's what I heard.
Was that the settlement? That's
cool. I wasn't sure about that. I just have to point out that this is one of our in memoriam episodes, in memoriam to literally every single person except for Clint Eastwood.
This is true. I didn't do the tombstone. You're right.
Yeah. There would have been a lot of names on that tombstone.
Absolutely, man. But I do have here. I've got a couple single bumpers for the individual movies, so we may as well start with.
Oh my God! That's cool. I like it. Yeah.
Hey man, I tried.
No, it's actually really cool. I'm like just wow. All right. Like no, it's good.
Here we go. Here's the quote. Thank you. And I'm so sorry. I always get your name wrong. Jikuro. So I hope I'm saying it close enough. But if not, please phonetically put how I should pronounce your name. But there it is. There's the quote. Mr. Leon, your movie is a very fine film, but it is my film.
Do we know
another Kurosawa quote about a movie along those lines is, "I'm not sure that Star Wars is a good film, but I enjoyed it." Like another movie that you know it a lot to him.
Hidden Fortress, right? Wasn't it Hidden Fortress?
Well, yeah. I mean, Hidden Fortress. There's little elements of Yojimbo that are directly in Star Wars. I mean, there's like a little line about being wanted in different parts of and the chopping off the arm. A lot of that stuff is I mean. Nothing wrong with any of that. I mean, it's I've stolen stuff from Kurosawa too.
Yeah. Jikuro says, although in my opinion, Fistful of Dollars is better than Yojimbo. Yojimbo is one of my least favorite Kurosawa films. I also love Sergio Leone more than Kurosawa. By the way, it's Jikoriho.
Jikoriho, you're incorrect. I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong. Well, that's an opinion. I would say it's a valid opinion, but it's not. Kurosawa is clearly better. Kurosawa is the master, and I'm joking, but I'm not. So I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I do think that Yojimbo is not only one of my favorite Kurosawa movies, although we talk a lot, and sometimes we talk off the air about movies, and we'll shit on stuff or whatever, but we'll often say that you could make. If you made one great movie, you're a pretty great director, right? Yeah. And Kurosawa made multiple of the greatest movies ever made, and Leone's great, there's no question about it. He has a very limited filmography, he only made these couple, basically 2 trilogies of movies, but he's great, and he's an amazing stylist, but I think that even there's an argument to be made that Yojimbo is like a kind of, a more popcorny, Kurosawa movie than some of the others. It's a very, very entertaining movie, but I think that there's a lot more to it than that too. I think it works both as being like a kind of really, a great entertainment, but also, it is kind of about something. And I think it was even about stuff that people weren't even reckoning with as much in the moment, about it's okay. We can go on, but I think that Yojimbo is also about capitalism and the economics of this stuff in ways that Leone isn't interested in handling in Fistful of Dollars, right? He's making a more trimmed down, leaner movie in a way, but he's kind of pushing aside some of the subtext that is going on in the Kurosawa movie.
And also, I do want to talk about that more, the economical side of things, but also when discussing Yojimbo compared to its successors, it's what it influenced. Something that people forget in these stories of the stranger coming to town and he's playing both sides is that Yojimbo is funny. And there's a lot of comedy. You can even say that it's a action comedy.
Oh yeah,
and not that all the films in its wake had to be comedies, but it's strange how many aren't. Leone, Walter Hill with Last Man Standing. Mm-hmm. George Lucas has never been funny, and I like Lucas, but he's never been funny. And I say that as someone who's a fan of American Graffiti. 1 and 2, but there's only one laugh in American Graffiti when the shop owner shoots the guy. But other than that, Lucas has never been funny. None of them. They love obviously the way Kurosawa films things. Mifune's a brilliant actor, although it helps that he's surrounded by the ugliest men in the world.
Yes, it's great. I love it. It's and one of the prettiest, like the gunslinger guy. Is a beautiful looking guy.
But none of them pick up on the comedy of it. which I think I
100% agree with this. This is totally right, and I think that But I think that the fact that Yojimbo can hold multiple tones in it is also the thing, right? Like it is, it's an action movie. It's violent. It's, certainly for the time, it's violent, and it's also just. I think a lot of what we're getting out of it as the comedy is coming through the charm of Mifune. Like he's, I think he's the coolest character who was ever in movies, and at the same time, he's, he's cool not just because he's flat affect or something like Eastwood is in that, in Fistful of Dollars, but like he's. The way that he'll kind of smirk at stuff or whatever. One of the defining moments of the movie, he walks into town, a dog runs past carrying a human hand in its mouth, right? Yeah. The look on Mifune's face when he watches the dog with the hand in its mouth run by is one of the greatest moments in movies, right? Like, and I think that Mifune just brings so much to this movie, and it's a star performance. The movie is, it's doing all the other things right, but it's also held up by his great charisma.
Agreed. Absolutely. And yeah, Mifune, I mean, for the rest of his life, such a compelling actor. You can't help but look at him. And that is what the great thing about what Kurosawa does with him.
Yeah. And that's a movie star, right? You can't help but look at him, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, John.
No, what I was going to say too isn't it interesting that clearly Kurosawa was influenced by Westerns in making this, and you get that Ford effect of the vistas in the background as you look at him, and I mean this is a village obviously behind him, but it's just those kind of things.
He was definitely influenced by Ford. Ford was a big influence on him, but also Dashiell Hammett. Like there's a lot of people make comparisons between, a sequence in The Glass Key,
yes,
with the beating and everything, and and very rightly, I mean, Kurosawa had personally referenced being influenced by that movie. People talk about Hammett's book Red Harvest,
yes,
as a basis for this. Then everybody argues about it because the particulars of Red Harvest don't line up exactly, but. I mean, look, I think that maybe more creative people than critics are the ones who made this movie, and they were able to take some inspiration. He and everybody working with him was able to take some inspiration from the basic setup of Red Harvest and make it something very different. Leone didn't just take inspiration; he took the whole movie. So
But here's the thing: if Dashiell Hammett was alive, and he actually died the year Yojimbo came out in 1961.
Oh wow! Yeah, yeah.
Who would be suing who?
It's true. It's true.
It's this strange.
And I don't think there's any purity in any of this. I mean, I think that John's right. And it's not that like. One's better than the other because one stole thing, blah, blah, blah. You just have to look at every one of them on their own terms. And I think that for me, looking at it on its own terms, I just feel like there's more dimension. As Yojimbo's super fun, and there's more dimension to it than Fistful of Dollars. Let me just make one more point about the comparison, though. It's we're talking about Akira Kurosawa and Mifune at the height of their powers, right? Like they've been working for a long time. Kurosawa had made a ton of movies. He'd worked with Mifune a ton of times. Mifune is almost 40. Like he's at the height of his powers. And Leone is only making like his, depending on how you count, second or third movie. He hasn't developed like that, the incredible charismatic style that he really gets to with like Once Upon a Time in the West, where the movie is carried by his charismatic filmmaking as much as it is anything. And he's not that Leone quite yet. Clint Eastwood is not that Clint Eastwood quite yet.
No.
And so like I think that it's a little bit of an unfair comparison in that they're not in similar places in their respective careers.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. Kurosawa, I was looking this up because there was a point where I was trying to watch all these art films from the 60s. Kurosawa kind of trails off in the 60s. He doesn't, it's not a productive year.
No, I mean, he fell out of favor. He had a hard time getting getting his films financed. He tried to kill himself. late in the 60s. It's just true. Sorry if we need a warning for that or something. That's a weird choice to pick for that, to illustrate that, but sure.
Yojimbo, but I hear you.
Absolutely. But that's not how he tried to kill himself.
No.
And then he ended up not, he couldn't make films in Japan. He went and made, after, I think Dodeska Den was the last film he made in Japan in the 60s, in that first stage of his career. He went off and made Dersu Uzala, which was financed by the Soviets. It's about a man who, like an indigenous man who lives off in Siberia, and it's a very kind of almost survivalist type of movie. And then he came back to prominence in a lot of ways because of these guys we're talking about, because of Coppola and Lucas, and because they were inspired by him and they believed in him, and they were the ones who were able to help him put together Kagemusha and then launched that last phase of Kurosawa's career, where he went into Ran and
right.
Dreams and the last few films they made. So yeah, I mean, it definitely, this is, he still made some other films in the classic period after this, and he made a sequel to it, Sanjuro, or Sanjuro, however you say it. And and some other things. Look, Jigar Rio, it's not better than Yojimbo. Sanjuro is not better than Yojimbo. I'm just going to keep arguing with you.
No, it's all good, man. And he's just
High and Low but we can agree that High and Low is a great Kurosawa.
And here, he kind of goes further in terms of that he does see your points, Gabe. He thinks Leone's leaner approach is more appealing to him. Plus, while he admires Kurosawa's subtext, he finds it could be didactic.
Sure.
And then he further says, I don't like the comedy in Yojimbo at all. Kurosawa is very good in comedy, in his opinion. Leone's sense of humor is more suited to him. And he says Mifune is excellent. The only laugh I got from the film is when he stuck his tongue out. So
to me,
I hear you, man.
I laugh out loud at the very last scene in the movie where he just is like, all right, see you later. He just turns around and walks away. The end, I think it's the greatest ending.
There's a take. Well, first of all, Yojimbo beats out a lot of its imitators because it has a giant man with a hammer, or a mallet, which is not in many of the if it's in any of the imitators, let me know. And then when Mifune sees that guy, he does a great take. That's great. That's silent comedy that could have worked in 1922.
Absolutely. And I do think that those a lot of the stuff in it, it is interesting that that Mifune's performance is pretty subtle, right? In a lot of ways, he's playing it, pretty cool.
Very low key. Yeah.
Yet everybody else is painted with a very broad brush, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Boar, brother, the ugliest guy in the world, who's named after a boar, and the one who in the end, the guy on frame left here.
Yeah.
And in the one who in the end just is so stupid that he helps smuggle Mifune out of town, and then gets scared of ghosts. Anyways, go on. Yeah, I just think of it, on the point of the mallet guy, everybody is very clearly defined. There's a giant, there's an ugly guy, there's a pretty guy with a gun who wears a bandana. There's it's, there's so many characters here, but they're not interchangeable. You're never really lost who's who, to me anyway.
I just love the symbolism of him on the rooftop. He is above them all. And
it's hilarious. He's just up there, enjoying that these idiots are going to kill each other. And he's manipulating them all, and he's driving them at each other.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful way to do it too, and so clear and iconic that it's just he climbs up that one tower and looks down on everything.
And I think with this genre of storytelling, I don't know if it has a name, but this thing that keeps the story of this lone, nameless, anonymous hero coming into a chaotic world and coming out on top. I think that genre is so based on audience identification that like you're this skilled person, and I would much rather identify with someone who's willing to have a laugh with things than I mean, Clint Eastwood can have a laugh like on sometimes, but he's much more taciturn and
sure
and doesn't have a wry sense absurdist maybe outlook that I think 30 Mulberry Field is technically the name of
30-year-old Mulberry Field. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's a little more easier to believe that the reason why this is happening, the reason why he's, I mean, you can almost say trolling these two sides is because he thinks it's funny.
Yes. Oh, 100%. But, and I also think though that the fact that, you know, where this goes, that he then at the point where he's not being cynical, where he does something compassionate, that's where he stumbles. As far as like, that's when they catch up with him. When he goes, another of the greatest scenes ever, where he goes and you know, frees the woman, reunites her with the father and kid, and then goes and tears apart the place to make it look. It goes and just kills all those guys immediately, right? Which is so awesome, right? And then you know, and then like tears the place apart to make it look like a whole bunch of guys came in there and did that when it was only him. And then frees them, and it's like, all right, here's the money, get out of here. And you know, they won't leave. They want to like thank him. They're so appreciative. And you know, he's like, you know, get out of here or I'll kill you. And like, it's such a beautiful thing. But him doing that, him acting with compassion that time is why they catch up with him and ultimately beat the shit out of him. And the fact that he is able to, you know, the fact that it's set up as a guy who has this kind of, you know, smirkier attitude about stuff, that he's, you know, that he's kind of portrayed in a lighter way, I think that gives much more impact to the part where he's completely beaten down at the, you know, and has to come back up from that again.
And oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. It also ends up, I suppose you can say, when the film was reaching its climax, when he's all disheveled and he's coming out of and he's like, he looks like a zombie almost.
Yeah.
Because he has that smile, he looks cooler all disheveled than I will look on my best day. Like,
well, he is Toshiro Mifune. Yeah. But he's also, I mean, I think that one of the things though that does go through the other movies, the movies that are directly jumping off from this, is the kind of ghost imagery, the like coming back from the dead stuff. We haven't talked about it yet, but Walter Hill made one Last Man Standing in the mid-90s. It's another remake of this, and you know, it has some less than great voiceover, I think, but the very beginning of it, he flat out says something about being a ghost in the very beginning of the movie. Like this thing of you know, and when when Mifune, you know, he's so horribly beaten up and everything, and and there's all this talk about ghosts being around, and you know, and then him looking like one when he comes out of the barrel, and then and then when he smiles, and the guy says, "You look even worse when you smile," you know, and then he just falls over like he's dead. I don't know. I do really enjoy. I mean, I do find it funny. Like I mean, it's a movie that I've seen a lot. I mean, well, we usually cover this a little earlier, but what about you guys? When was your first exposure to Yojimbo? And did you see the other movie first? The Leone movie first?
Me too. Yeah.
First. And it's amazing because then when I did see Yojimbo, that's when I'm like, okay, I had heard that it was based on Yojimbo, but I had no idea that like the symbolism with the bell. And then you go to Fist, and there, you know, and the bell is important in Fist. I mean, you know, just little things like that surprised me. God, I really can't say. I imagine, as I've said before, we had this great theater in Evanston where Northwestern University is, called the Varsity, and that was the great place to see foreign films and cult films and, you know, great concert movies and things like that. And they just, every month it was just amazing stuff. So I imagine that's where I first saw Yojimbo. I believe I first saw Fist on TV.
Right. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, Ian, you talked about it a little bit, right? You were going through an art house phase.
Yeah, and that's actually where I sat down and watched all the Dollars trilogy. I
Sure.
had seen, I think I'd seen Good, the Bad. My dad had made me watch The Good, Bad, the Ugly. But that's when I sat down and watched all three of them. All three of which, like, Fistfull came out in 1964, but I believe they all came out in America in the same year, like 68 or 69. And so they all had that big, that's why they're, amongst other reasons, thought of as this trilogy and had this impact, is that they hit America all at once. Which is an interesting thing. I mean, film releases were weird back then.
Sure, but also you would think that based on Eastwood's work on Rawhide, the television show, that Fist would have been released in America sooner.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't making like a low budget Western in Italy because he was super popular from that show. He was, I mean, he was and he wasn't. I mean, he that was the opportunity he had, but it wasn't that. But this is what made him a star. I mean,
sure.
I mean, obviously, I've heard people talk. I know that people knew him from the show, but I think he just wasn't like a star until this.
Can I do my my Fistful of Dollars bumper?
Absolutely.
Pretty
nice. No, it was great. I love that.
Something that's underrated, and I feel has to be noted, that it's a Fistful of Dollars, and I love films that start with an article that's not the. And I think it's so. I love. Shout out to Wes Craven, also R.I.P. The fact that it's A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Elm Street, yeah.
I love anything where it starts with A or an.
Was it George Siegel and Glenda Jackson in A Touch of Class? I believe in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I was thinking it. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that I don't know, your little bumper thing made me think one more Kurosawa thing, though, just that I'm always impressed by is the way that he uses weather. Like, it's always very calculated. I mean, everything that he did was calculated. They built this set. They initially it was he wasn't happy with the way that the street was, was dug out, and reworked it again and ran a bunch of water down it and did all sorts of shit to make it look exactly the way they wanted. But every time, every time you're watching a Kurosawa movie and weather is happening, that weather is saying something else about what's going on in the scene,
sure.
Right? And the rain is when everything kind of settles down, and the bureaucratic guy, or whatever you call it, for constable type guy from Edo is in town, and everybody, and there's a legend, so no one can do anything, and so there's the rain in that moment, and then the big wind when when he's walking in and all that sort of stuff, which Leone did an amazing job with the dynamite explosion and and using that as a way to justify the big roiling smoke at the end. I always love all that stuff in Kurosawa. Like, I love that, the way that he is so in control of everything, but there is also a little bit of feeling of out of control. And I think you see it more in this movie than in some things, in the way that it's shot, because they shot it with basically with two cameras. They basically always had two cameras running. The master shot and the wider master shot, and then a second cameraman on a long lens, or a really fucking long lens, like a 900 millimeter lens or something. And, so a lot of it cuts on the same line of axis between a wider shot and popping in on a closer one. But it also seems like they used a lot of that B camera in this movie, so much of it are these kind of flat compositions with, people arranged in them, telephoto lenses, and much more so than he'd done in the past. But I think it is so striking and as influential as anything, in this. I mean, like that kind of telephoto lens, filmmaking came, here more in the 70s, and and isn't. I mean, you don't see it much anymore, but I mean, it was a big influential thing on the way that people thought visually about movies.
I think one thing that helps make the film seem bigger, because if you think about it, it takes place in such a small,
like one street.
It takes place. You think like, man, if these guys are having trouble, they should just go to the next street and save themselves a lot of trouble. Is the fact that there are so many frames where it's something in the front and it's looking at, like, obviously the stuff with Mifune looking down at the people, looking at something that's a frame inside or something inside or through a through a window.
All the shutters, all the shutters that come up and down and up and down, and we revealing different depths through the
So it's like this 3D. It's not a 3D movie, but it feels like it feels deeper than it is wide.
And there are scenes there are interior scenes where you can see through slats into another building where another scene is happening in the background that you're not even really noticing unless you're seeing it on a big screen or in the in a theater. It's like it's calculated, but there are elements of it that feel like where like those long lenses, like there's some messy-ish elements to it that are part of the great tension, I think.
Well, and in contrast, obviously, Leone is all about the faces and getting tight shots, and certainly Eastwood and of course Ramon as well. I mean, and all the outlaws and everything, and those amazing character faces that read so much. It's so great. And I mean, that Leone was making this for literally an international audience to be dubbed in many different languages, as most of the spaghetti westerns were and the other Italian films were and stuff. But you really do. I mean, I guess, and forgive the tangent, but it reminds me of Danny Arnold and what he did with, Car 54.
Okay.
Matt Gertler?
Not Hiken.
Matt Hiken. Where it was faces that really intrigued him, and he would cast people that weren't great actors, but they're just really like odd-looking people. And these, and certainly the Fist, the Man with No Name movies, just populated with these.
And I think he gets better at that as it goes too. I feel like Fistfull, the characters, like, also compared to Yojimbo, the background people, the gangsters and stuff are, they're a little less distinguishable, I think, than in Yojimbo. Although he's still great at this. I mean, it's still the Leone thing is still really good. I mean, I think he gets more. He just gets better as he goes on. That's not a giant criticism.
One thing that makes for a few dollars more. By the way, again, I love that it's for a few dollars more. One of the things that improves it is I believe Klaus Kinski is in it, and he's there. He's got a great face that you can photograph 800 million ways, and it'll still be captivating.
Lee Van Cleef as well.
Yeah, Lee Van Cleef, absolutely. And Kinski. I hear Klaus Kinski was real easy to get along with too. So that was probably
him and like Leone. Like, how are there still movies?
I don't know, because I don't know tons about Leone. Like, I've watched some documentaries. I haven't like read every book or whatever. But he is an odd guy in that he made so few movies.
Yeah.
He seems to be both like ambitious and not ambitious. Like, there was 10 years between him making I guess Once Upon a Time in the West, I think, and
Once Upon a Time in America.
Unless it's I mean, enormous amount of time where he was just struggling to get that movie made, but not he wasn't like juggling things and taking other opportunities the way other ambitious directors were. I mean, I have a hard time getting a read on what kind of a guy he was.
I wonder if the repetition of the subsequent spaghetti westerns and the Terrence Hill movies, I mean, literally, as we know, we discussed when we had our tribute to Henry Silva, we mentioned that Eurocrime Pardon me.
Right.
That was a burp. Don't worry. It was
okay. I thought you were getting verklempt over Henry Ford. In
the Eurocrime documentary, they talk about how, in general, the Italian film industry would beat these genres to death.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he didn't know what to do. I really would love to read a Leone biography. I have no idea what happened during those wilderness years.
I mean, I think that he was desperately trying to develop. He was directing commercials. He was desperately trying to develop what eventually became, Once Upon a Time in America. But and I know that Christopher Frayling guy wrote a biography, and that does sound interesting. I would definitely like to check that out.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate the recommend there. Thank you, man. That's cool.
My favorite, by the way, Eurocrime is the name of the documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and available on Tubi, everybody, for free if you can handle commercials. And I'm telling you,
and if you can handle Antonio Sabato Sr. But go ahead.
Maybe better. Although it's funny, like he'll say something, and the person interviewing him will say like the completely different thing, which is one of the charms of the documentary. But one of the other great parts of the documentary, you're talking about, John was talking about the fact that the spaghetti westerns were meant to be shown all over the world, shown in every language, and because of that, there's no like live sound on Italian films,
right? Correct.
Which I believe also had to do with like when they were under Mussolini and fascism, like they would have like government agents there. And making sure nothing was recorded.
I don't know about that as much, but it was the case with all Italian movies, regardless of where they were meant to play. Yes. Like their system worked in a way where they did not record live sound.
And the best part in that, I don't know if he's joking or not, but like, so Fred Williamson, a great football player turned actor. People may know from like Hell Up in Harlem and
Black Godfather.
Black Caesar.
Black Caesar. I'm sorry, Black Caesar.
Yeah. Yep.
And he talks about this. He talks about the dubbing in films. And he goes, Americans are so picky. They want the sound of the picture to sync up with each other. I'm like, such high standards. We're such snobs. But it's like that is one weird thing that you have to get over. I sometimes find myself enjoying watching those films, and there is a weird, I think almost like dreamlike sense of them because the sound and the you can just tell like when sound isn't live, when it's John, that it's just like it has a compression to it that you can tell this is not recorded, and obviously some actors just aren't speaking English,
right.
Well, yeah, I think everybody just showed up and spoke whatever they spoke,
Yeah,
correct.
How do you act against that? Like,
well, I would really love to see more of Eastwood talk about those initial movies. And was it difficult to acclimate yourself? Again, in the Eurocrime movie, it's so well covered.
Yeah, for me personally, I do like Leone. I like Italian movies, certainly, but but a lot of them are ones that have all Italians in them, so they're actually talking to each other. But but I do feel like there's an element of this that those movies do feel a little detached to me, and I think that is a little bit of it. Why, it doesn't feel like the characters are interacting like human beings as much.
Yeah,
and I don't know. There is just something about them. I like them all. I think they're all really good, the Leone pictures. But I also just am not. I don't love them the way that I love some other stuff. And so when you're putting it right up against Kurosawa, which is, one of my favorite directors of all time, it's hard to, or he's made some of my favorite films of all time. Sorry.
There's another, and again, forgive the tangent, but it reminds me of the early Connery Bond films, especially both Dr. No and From Russia with Love in particular, where you have these international casts, and Goldfinger as well, where you have these international casts that, Daniela Bianchi, who plays the Bond girl in From Russia with Love, and you got Lottie Lenya and all these other international actors. And then, of course, Gert Frobe in Goldfinger, who we all learned who really didn't speak English at all, needed to be dubbed in and things like that. Yeah, it really was kind of a mark of that moment in the 60s where I think these films were made not only for America but for an international audience.
Yeah, it was strange, but because I believe Ursula Andress is also dubbed, and it's like dubbing was just not typical. Like if a movie came out now and someone was dubbed over, like that would be a not like a scandal, but it would be gossiped about. It would seem to something that like taints the performance or taints the production. And here with the Cubby Broccoli is just like, she doesn't speak English. Oh, we'll just dub her. Who cares?
Hell, they did it to George Lazenby in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where he was pretending to be George Baker's character, and they had George Baker loop the voice and everything.
Yeah, he was also a male model. He was a shitty actor, but to get back to the thing,
this never happened to the other guy.
Look, that's absolutely one of my two top Bond movies. I'm not saying
100%. My God. And I agree with you. He certainly is a second-rate actor. But back to
he just wasn't an actor at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
But
we did that chocolate bar commercials apparently.
Oh yeah, actually, I think that's excellent. But apart from that, I just getting back to this stuff. Did you guys watch the Walter Hill movie? I
watched a little bit of it.
I saw it.
I didn't see the whole thing.
No, I didn't. I didn't feel the need, and I love Walter Hill.
I think that this 90s Walter Hill period is maybe not the greatest.
Agreed.
I mean,
and say for 2000s Walter Hill, I got to interview him when he made the prison boxing movie Undisputed.
Okay, yeah. Well, and he directed the pilot of Deadwood, right? Which is like the greatest thing.
Yeah, you're right. No, absolutely. And he loved doing Westerns. And I do know that.
This is one of the strange things about like Walter Hill, and I feel this way about John Carpenter as well. But I think Carpenter ends out his oeuvre ends up better, where those are both guys who grew up watching Westerns. They came to Hollywood wanting to make Westerns. They were told when they started making movies in the early 70s, the Western isn't over. And so those guys turned action films and sci-fi films into Westerns. I mean,
great.
Actually, if you think about it, Escape from New York is also kind of
absolutely
sure.
The guy coming into town.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. And you know what? That movie's funny. That
it's true.
That gets the humor.
New York has more than one street, but apart from that,
and it also doesn't have a 69th Street bridge. Although who knows? Maybe in the distant year of 1997 they built it.
Have I heard right that they're considering a third movie with Russell Beck?
I think they're considering remakes or.
There's been remake talk for a long time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think Carpenter is making another movie.
I don't think Carpenter would make it though. I think he's done. I don't think he's directing anything else. But who knows? You never know.
But and same thing with Walter Hill, like Warriors and Streets of Fire, which is a favorite of mine. Those are definitely Western influence. And thing is, in both cases, in like with Last Man Standing and with Vampires, with John Carpenter, when they start making things that are like Westerns or more modern Westerns, I feel like there's something lost because the tension one of the joy of the films is that they were taking these other genres and using their love of Western to synthesize something new, whereas them just making, and with Last Man Standing, it's also kind of a gangster picture. It actually takes place in like the 20s, but but it's like I don't know. It's more fun to see them work out a problem as opposed to just being like, now I get to do what I do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I watched the most of the movie, and I think a downside for me is a little bit that this is Bruce Willis at the top of his movie star. Maybe not the top, but he was definitely a movie star at that point.
Well,
and he and it really feels it in a way, in the bad way, in the I don't want to look weak. I don't want to, there is the stuff where he gets beat up, but like in the initial scene where he gets beat up, he manages to get a gun away from a guy and shoot somebody, and it feels a little like they can't handle 90s action hero can't handle the very thing that everybody liked about Bruce Willis in Die Hard, that he that he got the shit beat out of him, that he was vulnerable,
he was funny.
Die Hard might also be a Yojimbo movie as well. When you think about it, I mean, it's a lone guy coming in, working against the gangs, blah, blah, blah. There's not the two sides of it, but there is.
You can say the other side is his divorce. It's like
right.
Yeah, that's the other.
I think the way that the movie star thing, Kurosawa was very much in control, and Mifune was a star, but he wasn't, but he had worked with Kurosawa forever. Kurosawa was the one in charge. And I don't know if I think that dynamic was not helping in the Walter Hill situation.
One thing with these films,
movie police, they're coming.
Yeah,
not me.
The movie police are coming because here's the thing, guys. I have not watched that much Kurosawa. I've watched this. I've watched Hidden Fortress. I've watched Rashomon a long time ago, and I've watched Dreams.
Okay, Ian. Here's the thing. You're gonna.
And by the way,
you got some work to do. Okay?
I do, but I mean, not for lack of trying. I do, like, for example, for like one of the big Criterion sales, I did get the Blu-ray Rashomon. Unfortunately, this is in what I like to call Lou Reed mode, in the fact that it's in the original wrapper. So one of these days, I've got to.
Okay. So I am going to propose a new segment for the show. And it's called What Kurosawa Movie Did Ian Watch This Month? And Ian is going to have to watch one. He's going to have to bring his report in, and at the end of it, we're going to get to hear what Ian thought about Stray Dog, or about Dodeska Den, or about any number of interesting Akira Kurosawa movies.
I think like most of them are on Criterion, like, right?
A lot of them are on Criterion. Look, I'll give you the $4. You can hike over to Videotheque or whatever if you want. Like,
that's the hike,
I'm not joking, and you are going to need to do this homework and come.
No, by the way, I would love to watch more. That's always been, because I do like those films a lot, and how can you not?
Well, you don't know if you do or not. So
the films I have seen,
it's going to be Ian's Kurosawa Corner. And we'll have it at the end of every episode. It'll be an exciting new thing for people to tune in for.
Our buddy
Redbeard is a really interesting movie. Certainly Stray Dog. Stray Dog would be a great one. Ian, I have assigned you Stray Dog. It's a sort of film noir type of crime movie.
That's Kurosawa. Like modern ones.
Mifune is great. That's what I think you should watch for next time.
Absolutely. My introduction to all this was when they put the Usagi Yojimbo character in the Ninja Turtles cartoon, and that's where I discovered this. And actually,
okay, I don't know what any of those words mean, but
you said
guy, of course.
I'm joking. I'm
just saying it for anyone who doesn't know about our comic book stuff. But
did a tribute thing for the Usagi Yojimbo.
Oh, there you go.
Yes,
sure you did. That's fantastic, man. And truly, again, while we're on Usagi for a moment, Stan Sakai, one of the nicest guys in
100%.
He's great. Yeah, that's. And by the way, I had no idea like that was another character from another comic that they just put in the Ninja Turtles cartoon just to give Stan Sakai money. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
cool.
I had no idea about this. I've never seen.
That's how there was a toy everything.
What?
Yeah,
it was toy and everything apparently. Wow. Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe Eastman and Laird were.
And look, and to be fair and to be magnanimous, if you want to assign me a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle thing to watch every month, I'll watch that and come back with a report.
There's a whole Scott Ackerman podcast where him and a friend do that. Thing is, they go through all the Ninja Turtles movies, which is not the best representation of that.
Right. Well, since you know it so well, you can assign me something, and I've never seen any Ninja Turtle anything. Like,
did you read the original comics?
No.
The original comics.
Then I just wasn't that interested.
Black and white comics from the 80s.
That's still the best version of it.
Okay. Well, look, if I have to, just tell me which. I'll do a book report on the comics.
Like IDW has like a first collection.
All right, no, you're gonna have to tell me specifically. I assigned you straight up. Anyway, moving on.
Oh my, good stuff.
None of this is serious.
Here, Jikaroho says that it's a shame Red Bread was Kurosawa.
Red Beard. It's Red Beard.
Oh, okay. He's Red Bread. Yeah, that's the cooking show they did together.
Yeah.
It was Kurosawa and Mifune's last team up. Sad to see them never work together again. He did love Nakadai and Ran.
Ran. Oh, totally. And Ran is amazing. And and I believe they had a falling out, and they didn't work together again. I didn't actually get around to saying how I saw Yojimbo the first time.
Yeah, please.
It actually was because of my mom. She had rented. I know she'd rented it sometime when I was a teenager, and then I just ended up watching it myself on my own. And she recommended. She did text me about remembering like the first time she'd maybe seen Rashomon or something, but like the first time she really knew about Kurosawa was from like maybe 1980 or so. PBS interview show with Coppola and George Lucas, I think, and with them talking about Kagemusha and talking about trying to get a film going for Kurosawa again. So
wow. So
it was through that, and I did see Yojimbo before I saw A Fistful of Dollars. I didn't have a dad to tell me to watch westerns, and I didn't, and I knew that I'd seen bits of it on TV. I knew it in a cultural sort of way. I recognized the references in Back to the Future 3, but I didn't actually really get around to watching the Leone movies until a lot later, and they didn't really speak, or it was just one thing that I never sought out until later, but I do like them a lot.
Seriously, I think appreciated the pure action of westerns, and then as I got older, you appreciate the Bud Bedekers and the better the Stanley Kramers. I don't
know if Stanley Kramer, but
High Noon, isn't that Kramer?
No, he may have produced it. It was directed by a German who got blacklisted, right?
Okay. You're right.
And I'm losing it for a second, but
also
the point. I get your point. Yeah,
and not only the films, but also, frankly, the Gunsmoke radio series. And
that stuff is great. I didn't come to that till a lot later, but actually, honestly, I'm a pretentious guy, and the way that I got into a lot of this stuff was through the better stuff. Like I got more excited about westerns when I was watching the Anthony Mann, James Stewart movies, the Bud Bedeker westerns, listening to that Gunsmoke radio show is really great. I don't know, for whatever reason, westerns never had that kind of appeal to me as a kid. I did grow up in a kind of Star Wars sci-fi-ish era, and that was more appealing.
Sure. No, Lone Ranger reruns were as important to me, and Cisco Kid reruns as watching Star Trek.
You liked that one rock they rode by all the time.
Exactly. No, and as I've said before, I think my fascination with superheroes began with the fact that Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger, did a public appearance in his Lone Ranger outfit when I was like 4 years old, and I met the Lone Ranger. And
this was
amazing.
This was at a point before they sued him for showing up that way, and he had just had to wear sunglasses or whatever.
No, it's about 10 years before that terrible Clinton Spilberry movie with Christopher Lloyd. The only good thing about The Legend of the Lone Ranger, as Butch Cavendish, because he was a very good bad guy in that movie.
I did see a little bit of that movie the other day. It was on something, and I just watched a bit of it. But I saw it in a theater when I was a kid too, and I actually had some toys from that. Now that I think about it, so I did have a little bit of. I had a Lone Ranger and Tonto toy, and Silver toy, possibly Tonto.
As bad as the movie was, slightly better than the Armie Hammer Johnny Depp movie.
Yeah, well, cannibalism free, but presumably, I don't know, I didn't see it, but I believe William Fraker directed that. The legendary cinematographer William Fraker directed the bad early
Lone Ranger. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't
say.
Yeah,
it's a Legacy from the Outer Limits. He was one of the cameramen on Outer Limits.
Oh wow! Because I mean, no, many a small boy birthday party was
William
going
A.
to the
Fraker.
theater and seeing Lone Ranger and the Lost City of Gold, one of the Clayton Moore movies. I think he made 2 features. But that TV show, every Sunday morning, and it's on a ton of the over the air channels or cable channels and digital channels now. I mean, it's all over the place.
That is something that does not happen anymore, which is people showing up as their characters for appearances. That you don't have Jeremy Renner showing up as like Hawkeye in something.
Yeah, he might have been getting paid a little bit more though.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that you probably look. I don't go to loads of cons, and when I do, I don't spend tons of time in the autograph area. But I'll bet there's some people who show up in their costumes, right?
Some of them might have the costume. Some of them may not fit in it.
Larry Storch, through his life, would always show up with the Agarn hat from F.
Right.
And so that was always great, so.
I will say, this is another tangent, but speaking of early 1980s films that bring back a pulp hero, there's a whole documentary called Life After Flash about the dude who played Flash Gordon. Sam Jones. And
who also, speaking of, got dubbed.
Yeah, he was. They go over that in the documentary. He, it follows him during his con appearances, and you would think he is setting up a Broadway show the way he cares about setting up his entire booth stuff. It's it is a whole. I mean, it is a lot of his business. Although he does do personal security, apparently.
I think that some of the stuff in that documentary might have been a little bit fluffed up and
sure,
and but who knows?
Sal Abenanti, who of course is Alex Ross's art dealer, Alex did that wonderful Flash Gordon poster for the anniversary of the movie, and Alex and Sam have had many interactions. Sal has had also many interactions with Sam, and Sal says just sweetheart of a guy. And
sure, yeah.
So he
didn't come off as an unsympathetic guy. I'm just saying, the way that some of that stuff was framed. But that said, everything about the way he conducted himself on Flash Gordon seems pretty unsympathetic, and he kind of just seems like he deserved what he got. But or unprofessional, I guess would be the thing to say.
Cool Cat. Wait, what's Cool Cat? I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was Larry Storch did a lot of animation. And that was one of his characters, Cool Cat. The Jikuro Orojo asks, did Larry Storch ever meet a fan dressed as Cool Cat? No, but he was from Tennessee Tuxedo. He was Phineas J. Whoopi, the man with the 3-dimensional blackboard who would explain the various science things that you learned watching Tennessee Tuxedo. And he was doing his Frank Morgan Wizard of Oz imitation. I'm doing Frank Morgan.
Right. Well, I think that somebody should do that research and find out what Larry Storch's footprint in the furry community is.
We have to.
That question has never come up before that I've heard.
We have to do a scene missing about the Total Television animated product, which included Underdog, Tennessee Tuxedos, and the incredibly inappropriate these days Go Gophers. The little Indians.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I don't remember ever watching
on YouTube
that,
and be appalled. Greatly appalled. Yes,
yeah. But
not a great.
I was a big Underdog fan. So
yeah, I thought Underdog was really cool.
Simon Says, dry up. Simon Bar Sinister, essentially. Lionel Barrymore.
Right.
I love those cartoons. I learned many a voice watching Underdog and the various Total Television product.
It was this is one of my favorite movies, but it was a strange experience growing up and watching Underdog and loving it, and then watching The Shining with Scatman Crothers.
Oh, right.
And also he was jazz.
Hong Kong Phooey, right?
Yeah, he was Hong Kong Phooey, of course.
Yeah. Hong Kong Phooey. Yeah, sorry, that's another one I loved. And then he's gets an axe in his chest. Spoiler alert.
Yes, he does.
And it's a big, complicated world out there.
Don Adams, Tennessee Tuxedo in the Total Television cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Chumley, we're going to see Mr. Whoopi. Would you believe? Good stuff.
Yeah. So
all right, there you go.
We'll see. That might be a spin-off podcast for you, John.
All right, fair enough. I know. I can appreciate that.
Okay, well, maybe we did this. It's certainly been an hour. So
it certainly has been an hour. Has absolutely. No, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. We haven't decided on what our movie will be next month, but it's
probably Skidoo. But we haven't decided.
I would vote for Skidoo. It's a horrible movie.
Skidoo is so crazy. The thing is, like, we would not be able to put in a word. It would be maybe an hour of us just going, like, trying to, like, how to say. It's a movie that gives us, like, who? I beg your pardon. My mind is going blank. That's how I'm overloaded.
Just overwhelmed.
Who's the actress, the Broadway legend in
Carol Channing?
Carol Channing.
It is the movie that gives us Carol Channing's Mr. Skin entry. Let us.
Yes, it is true.
It is true. Jackie Gleason, Carol Channing, Frankie Avalon, Groucho Marx, and it's an Otto Preminger movie. No, I'm very funny. I don't know if people know this, but I'm incredibly funny. Yeah, maybe
Arnold Stang, Slim Pickens.
Nice.
Oh my God, Richard Keel. It goes on and on.
It's notable because
Harry Nilsson.
It has three.
Oh, and I'm sorry, but the still living Austin Pendleton, who we should then get as a guest on the show.
Oh man, and Frank, of course, too, still living.
I believe that Austin Pendleton is. I think I was just in New York. I think he directed something that was on Broadway there when I was looking through the listings. He's still around. He's still going. So
it's notable for having 3 Batman villains and then being directed by another one.
That is true.
And also, if you can look it up, also one of the cool things about Skidoo, dude, I actually would like to do a Skidoo.
We were doing it right now,
even though it's not good. It's not good, but it is such an important cultural
train wreck
artifact.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll go with that. I'm like, what are you going to get to? Important, cultural? Where are we going with this?
It's Harry Nilsson sings the end credits, and when I say he sings the end credits, he sings everything. He sings Gaffer. He sings the copper at the end. There is a clip you can find on YouTube where Otto Preminger and Harry Nilsson are on Playboy After Dark promoting the movie. Otto Preminger is in a Nehru suit, necklace. Like, Harry Nilsson looks like a normal guy, but Otto Preminger wants to show he's hip, even though he still has that fucking Otto Preminger head.
Totally. Harry Nilsson was also a little bit the kind of Hollywood's professional hippie, would, somebody who was acceptable enough but counterculture enough, I think we're actually. I think we're expending some of our episode podcast value here on Skidoo by talking about it, though. I feel like we should just save it for the episode.
Yeah, save it for the pod, as I always tell my guests and co-hosts sometimes, who start to tell me a story before we start recording. Yeah. So there you go. I guess we have decided on Skidoo for. I
was saying the dumbest thing I could think of. I wasn't actually suggesting what we do next time, but okay, fine.
Skidoo, there's not stranger things than Skidoo. Although I will say, for a long time, that film was not available, probably rightly.
Yeah.
Now you can find it pretty easily, though.
It is pretty easy.
I would say for equal weirdness and, oh my God, all these people that are in this horrible movie, The Sphinx is a terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Sphinx. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but I've never seen that movie.
I haven't seen it complete either, but it's it's Leo Gorcey and Huntz Hall's last appearances as their Bowery Boy characters, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Rudy Valley.
I think here's my suggestion. Since we've devolved into production meeting time,
I like when we do this.
I think that we should do Skidoo and then find a complementary movie that can somehow, which is not necessarily another movie as bad as Skidoo or as inexplicable as Skidoo, but something that's connects to it, something that we can talk about this off the pod here. But I do think that maybe we look at Skidoo and we look at another movie, perhaps a great Preminger movie. I don't know.
there's certainly a lot of great Preminger.
He did make several.
Perhaps to balance it out, Advise and Consent.
Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe. Let's just take a look at what would fit, and let's do a Preminger episode next time.
I love it. I think those two in particular would really balance each other quite well.
All right, cool.
Balance each other. Although, if you showed someone both those movies and told them the same person directed them, they would punch you in the face.
That's part of what's interesting about Preminger, though. But he doesn't have a style. He doesn't have. He's not great movies. He's not that kind of auteur. So, he's I don't exactly know what the fuck he did, but sometimes he made amazing movies. So, and sometimes he made Skidoo. So let's think about that, and I think we're good.
Absolutely, guys. Well done. Thanks a lot for everybody watching. Thank you for the comments, and we will see you next time. Take care.